Hello, everybody. Today we're doing What If Deku had a shadow clone quirk. And, yeah, this is part 1, by the way. I'm trying to find something popular. If we can at least get 350 views on a What If, I will do a part 2. But as you can see, we haven't. Yeah, that's kind of it. So, yeah. On to our intro. No. Okay, so, kind of forgot I don't have an intro because, yeah. So, we are going to start off our What If when Deku is 4. Nothing changes, prior to that point. Izuku is still raised by Inko and everything. Yeah. Except Hisashi is there. Because, I've noticed something, guys. The what ifs that I actually find enjoying are the ones that change up the story. Like, if you guys know who Quietly is, he does Naruto what ifs, or Shadow Mania is his ult. I enjoy those so much. Someone probably doesn't, but, I do. So, I do want to just tell you guys, I will be changing up the premise of the story. So, as Izuku tries to stand up for himself, as he told Bakugo that he could be a much better hero than Bakugo was, as Bakugo and his friends push him down to the ground, and Bakugo says, "What are you gonna do about that, Deku? You haven't even awoken your quirk. You're probably quirkless like the rest of them." As Izuku says, "Why would you say that, Kachan?" As Katsuki looks at him and says, "What do you mean, why would I do that? Because they're all below me. They need to learn their place in this society. The strong are meant to be strong, and the weak are the underlings. Don't you get it by now, Izuku? I'm the strong one. You're the weak one. Now, leave." As Izuku says, "No," as he claps his hands together for maybe, just maybe in the back of his mind, to awaken his quirk. But Izuku, as his hands make smoke out of them, he instantly smiles, as then he sees potentially what his quirk is, as a second version of him appears, and as Izuku says, "Attack him," as the clone quickly runs over and starts punching one of the bullies, as Izuku claps his hands together and uses as much as energy as he can, which is more so just tensioning it up in his head. And as he starts to get out of breath, he notices there's 10 of him, all fighting the bullies. There's 4 against Katsuki and 3 against the other 2. As Katsuki tries to defeat them, quote unquote, he explodes one in the face with all the power you can muster, as the clone quickly disperses in a cloud of smoke, as the other 3 begin punching him still. And after a while, they had all been dispelled, but the bully's head been bruised a lot, and one even had a little blood on him. And keep in mind, they're 4-year-olds. Very weak. Well, Katsuki not much, but yeah, he had a black eye, and yeah, he had some bruises on him. As all 3 of them get up and quickly run away. As Katsuki says, "You won't get away with this, stupid Deku," as he goes crying to his mom. And keep in mind, they're 4. That's not going to be what Bakugo is actually like. So, as Izuku runs home to his mom and tells her about his quirk, they quickly go to their quirk doctor. As the quirk doctor quickly examines him and takes an x-ray of his whole body, noticing he has the usual one joint in the pinky toe, signifying he does have a quirk, so he's not lying. And as he's telling this to Inko, he then says, well, kid, do what you did. Tense up in your head. As Izuku says, oh yeah, and I found an easier way for it. As he puts his left hand out with his middle and ring finger? Pointer finger out. And same thing with his right hand, except he makes a cross with his right to his left and says, clone, as one appears. And then the doctor says, well, let's step outside, as they step out into a large area for dangerous quirks, as Izuku says, clones, as he shouts that all the clones he could muster at that time was around 30, which is still incredible for a kid. Well, like, in Naruto standards. And Inko says, oh my gosh, Izuku, that's amazing. As there was 30 Izukus, and Inko got overloaded with how adorable that would be. That would be an awful lot of All Might support in that one room. So, yeah. And this goes on for a couple years as Izuku was able to stand up to Katsuki. Slowly, as he grows older, his body would get stronger, along with the number of clones he could summon. But with his low physical strength, he made up in very much more clones. And by the time middle school rolled around, he could already summon 135 clones. And by this time, he was dead set on being a hero, because he wasn't bullied as much. It was just little fights that would pick up with Katsuki and him. And that was it. But he asked his mom if he could get some weights, and she said yes. And he started slowly getting his upper body strength a lot better. And as middle school, the end of it, rolled around, he continued building up strength in his arms and with his legs too, so he could be faster to catch people off guard with his clones. And during the summer of the second to third year, he made a similar ultimate move to Twice's, except it doesn't divide the strength between clones. They're the same strength. So he could make at most 1,000 with that jutsu, with that ultimate move. But it would obviously make Izuku vomit a lot because he was that exhausted. And he'd be extremely dehydrated. That is going to be the downfall of his quirk. He needs lots of water. Because, it divides. We'll just say it takes liquid for him. So, yeah. He needs to be full of water and to be, good with all that. And once that happens, he can unleash one full ultimate move. Or tons of clones to attack. So, as the last day of middle school rolls around, it's a normal day for Izuku, because when everyone heard he was going to UA, they were fine with it, because he could beat Katsuki quite easily, may I add. With only 3 or 4 clones, him alone could destroy Katsuki. Even with Bakugo's insane quirk strength, 5 of Izuku versus him with Izuku having trained his body. And yeah, that easy for him. As Izuku is walking to his house on his normal route, because nothing had happened to him, he continues to look in his notes about heroism and say, well, Mom, time for 10 months of training. Kind of sad I'll have to go to summer school, though. And I do want to say, guys, for the 10 months of training, I have recently learned from a scene in My Hero that he trained during middle school. Well, during the 10 months of training time, he still had school. So that's saying something. Because, yeah. So we'll assume it was something like that. Or it was just another year of school. So we'll say it's summer school this time. Because, yeah, more detail. So, as Izuku continues learning, he does what he does in high school, where he does the leg thing and puts his legs up and he shakes violently. And Izuku and does that, and everybody else just kind of stays away from him. They think, how could that smart of a kid get into summer school? And Izuku actually had an F in, we'll say, definitely not history, actually, something stupid, public speaking. He had an F in public speaking class in middle school. We'll say that, because, yeah, why not? So, Izuku, nervously, went into that, and he actually did pretty good. He was doing that entirety of summer school, got him through his nervousness. It almost completely cured him of it. And Izuku was still quite nervous, though, talking to other people, but in big crowds, he wasn't that scared, because he went through a whole 6 months of it. So, by the time 10 months had gone through, yeah, he was quite strong. He could handle a total of 200 clones at one time. Or 2 whole ultimate moves before he started vomiting and or passed out. By the way, guys, I do want to point out, if Izuku would need to, well, he'll still throw up and stuff, but he can nearly kill himself with an ultimate move he had discovered accidentally, which made 1,000 clones into one main body, and then added that to his strength, and he called it super mode. And when he used it, but it was only with 200, it just destroyed all of the garbage that he was using for training. He wasn't picking it up necessarily. He was just destroying it. So, yeah, that kind of helped with him. It was a win-win. So, as Izuku continues doing that, one day he arrives to see All Might, but he's training a kid. We'll just say it's some random kid. Maybe Mirio, actually, because he would have given it to Mirio. I don't think Bakugo gets it. Yeah, because All Might had clearly seen that Bakugo already had a quirk. So, maybe Mirio, who had worked from the bottom up with a weak quirk. Yeah. So, Mirio was training with All Might to clean the beach fully. As Izuku arrives and says, "Oh, are you cleaning the beach?" As All Might says, "Oh yeah, want to help?" As Mirio says, "Oh yeah, that would be great if you could help us." As Izuku says, "I could help for sure." As he says, "Clone," as he puts his hands together. and makes around 145. As they're all shocked, and Izuku, with his a lot higher heightened upper body and leg strength, get it done quite fast. They'd actually done it in 3 days. They cleaned the beach, and they still had 2 months. So they trained together for that short time, and they get a lot stronger. And Izuku is extremely happy with what he can do. And Mirio also gets to know Izuku, and they're sort of buddies. And Izuku was ecstatic when All Might had finally revealed himself. And when I said All Might at the start, guys, I'm sorry, I meant Skinny Might also. And yeah. After that, All Might and Mirio waved goodbye as Izuku had to go home for the last 30 days to study because his mother wanted him to. And 30 days later, Izuku arrives at the UA campus saying, okay, I'm going to overflow the entire entrance exam with me. That's my plan. And I will reveal in the next video Izuku's capacity, if you're wondering, after the 10 months of training. So, yes, that is where we'll be leaving off for part 1 of What If Deku Had a Shadow Clone Quirk. Part 1. Actually, no, it's not. I am inspired, per se, by the YouTuber I mentioned. And, yeah. So, yeah, it was quietly. So, Izuku went into UA, the UA entrance exam. And as that happened, as he was walking up towards the stairs, he nearly trips, but he catches himself as a girl behind him says, "Oh, sorry, I was about to use my quirk on you. I thought you were going to fall." As Izuku looks at her and says, "Oh, it's fine." As Izuku, who had been with Mirio, had matured a lot. He was still quite silly and stuff, but he'd matured a lot. He learned that sometimes it was better to be serious. And he went into the exam after that. And the first stage of it was, in fact, it was a puzzle. As everyone gets to a desk, Izuku and everybody, as President Mike says, "Well, students, you'll have to find a way to get this very shape into this circle," as it was a triangle into a circle hole. As people who had shrinking quirks and quirks that wouldn't help a lot thought, "Oh, that's easy actually," as one person with a shrinking quirk quickly shrunk their triangle and stuck it in there. And people who had brute force also just shoved it in there. But with the people of lackeys done, as President Mike said, "Well, the entrance to the exam is that way," as he pointed to the exit. And no one noticed that, and everyone walked out. And President Mike closed the door after that and says, "Well, students who aren't incredibly gifted as that, this is the true exam. I'm not here for physical strength. In fact, we don't need it precisely. We need people who are smart and think outside the box here at UA." As everyone who had just left was quite sad with what happened. And yeah, they'd probably end up going to some other school. As Izuku thought to himself, "I was about to do the same thing." As President Mike says, well, if you all can do that, get the number that's actually inside that. As there's a couple layers to the box. As Izuku says, interesting. As he gets 5 of him all around his table, and they all try and squeeze the way through the box. And then as he was pushing down on it, he notices in the corner of his eye a open flap, but it was barely visible because it blended in so well. As he opened his box, as President Mike says, well, contestant number 301. Good job. You're the first one to pass phase 1 of the exam. Yes, this is merely phase 1 out of 4 of the exam. Actually, no. I'm sorry. My bad. 3. I will explain it to you to be nice. The first phase is this one, the puzzle. The second one is quirk capacity. We check to see how far you can use your quirk to. But at that same time, you'll have to... Actually, never mind, guys. The second phase will be a quirk evaluation almost. And as President Mike says, the third phase will be quick one-on-one fights, getting them done with as quick as we can. You nearly have to win 4 fights altogether to have a possibility of getting into UA high school. About a 15% chance, which is still pretty good for what it takes for everybody to get in. As everyone continues their work, and eventually a couple other students get past phase 1, but the second phase was a star with a circle next to it, as Izuku was trying to figure out what it meant, as it had a keypad next to it, and it was a riddle. You had to guess what the circle and the star meant, as it had the word astronomy next to it. I'm pretty sure this is what astronomy means. You can correct me in the comments. And Izuku says, "Oh, that was so simple." And the point of phase 2 was to make sure no one was overthinking it, because they don't want people overthinking situations as a hero. As Izuku types into the keypad, sun and moon, as it shows a check mark, and the box opens, showing the final part of it. It was, let me think. Okay, it was a hero quiz to see if through their lifetime they had gathered at least a little knowledge. It said something like, how many people have became the number 1 hero? As Izuku says, oh, that's easy, as he types in, let's say, 41, and gets it right and says, let's go, as he reaches in to the final, through the final phase of the box, and picks up his amulet, and throws his hand up, and shows the amulet to President Mike, and President Mike says, good job, kid. You're the first one to pass phase 1 of the exam. Well, please wait in the corner. As Izuku said, oh, okay. As a couple kids had slowly gotten it also. And Izuku was quite happy with how quickly he was able to get it. And I will be trying for an hour, maybe. if we can, guys, because I want to start raising. Why did I say upping? That's not even a word. Raising the duration of my videos to back to 20 minutes like I used to, at least, or maybe 30 minutes or an hour if it's what I do. Yeah. So if ask what you guys want me to do in the comments. I don't know. So Izuku waits in the corner, and after a long time, people like Katsuki. Why am I saying Katsuki? I just need to say Bakugo. As people like Bakugo and Ida and the smarter people get it. And after a couple more hours, the people with strong quirks and... Oh, sorry, guys. The people with quirks that were quite useful did eventually get it. But, as President Mike says, time's up, and a little less than half of the kids were eliminated by that. One kid was still on phase 1, not being able to see the hidden lever or whatever. As President Mike walked them all to phase 2. But like in Hunter x Hunter, it was a long run. Well, more so jog. But not nearly to the length. They ran 5 kilometers. Which, that might be that probably is a long distance. I don't know. But it sounds like it. So, after they had dropped at least half of the participants already from what the pool was before, it's only a handful of kids for about, let's say, 8 classes of UA students. And they needed to narrow it down to 3. So, President Mike says, well, welcome to phase 2, as Aizawa is waiting for them and says, okay. Students, possible students, this will be phase 2. Dang, I forgot what I said phase 2 would be. I'll be right back, guys. I need to check. Okay. Hey guys, I found out it was the quirk evaluation thing. So, for those people who will yell at me in the comments because I forgot, and then because they didn't watch the rest of the video, yeah, shout out to y'all. So, yeah, continuing on. As I said, well, let's see, who will we be trying first? As all the students split up into three stations simultaneously. And they all begin doing their duration. So, for example, Shinso, they give him a requirement of 10 minutes with keeping someone brainwashed. As Aizawa says, well, go. As he says, you like jazz? And the guy says, yeah. As he gets brainwashed. As the timer starts. And 10 minutes later, Shinso, who is panting a lot, says, that's it, right? As the timer rings, and Aizawa says, yeah, you pass. Go to the check mark. As there'd already been a little line, as Izuku was called up. And Izuku says, okay, hello. As Aizawa says, yeah, right. Well, what's your quirk, kid? As Izuku says, my quirk is clone. I can clone myself as much as I can. As Aizawa said, what is your limit? As Izuku said, I would say it's around 400. As Aizawa is shocked and says, make 600. As Izuku's like, oh, okay. As he made his hand sign and said, clone. as hundreds and hundreds of Izuku clones crowd around them. And Izuku makes 607. And Aizawa says, fascinating, as he writes something down on Izuku's paper. And Izuku, Midoriya. Okay, you pass, kid. As Izuku walks into the line that had formed. And a couple minutes later, it was done. And half of the kids were gone once again. And Izuku said, the preliminaries would knock out a lot of people. As Aizawa looks on his list and says, okay, this is great. Well, students, you'll only need to win once to get into this final exam done. That's what you'll need to get into UA High School. Based on your performance is how we will judge you. As they walk over after a 10 kilometer run, which is probably a long time, 10 kilometers. So after they run, they actually get to 3.5 classes for, like A, B, and C. I'm pretty sure there is a C, possibly. So, as they all get in their fighting stance, Aizawa says, fine. As he gets off the phone and says, everyone in the circle, everybody. As everybody quickly crowds in. And Aizawa says, well, I will be counting how many people get knocked out of this ring. You just have to be nobody out of the first... As he counts quickly and says, the first 8 people will be knocked out of Phase 3. If you can do that, well, great job. You will pass. As Izuku smiles to himself and says, this is the perfect exam for me. And yeah, you can understand why he can make clones, guys. As Izuku hears as the bell rings, like in a wrestling match, and Izuku quickly jumps up and says, clones! As 10 of him cannonball into the crowd, as 3 people had already gone out from just all the punching that had been going around. As a kid with a wind quirk sent everybody flying, but one of the kid who was flying had a barrier quirk blocked them all and saved basically everybody. Even Izuku hit the barrier as they all quickly get back in, and the wind kid is immediately punched out. As there had been 4 people who could get out now, Izuku jumps up once again and says, my last tactic didn't work. Take this. As he jumps high, very high in the air, and hundreds of clones in the air. 300, we'll say. And he sends all of them down in cannonballs. All at one person in a corner who had around 8 people surrounding him. And when all the clones hit them, they're all gone. As Aizawa had just decided, well, seek and suffer, as those kids had all been eliminated. As he says, stop the fighting. And one kid who was about to fall takes a sigh of relief and says, thank you. And Aizawa says, well, we'll be tracking all of your progress through camera footage, and we will rank you into your classes as we see fit. Thank you for this. As Aizawa, 10 minutes later, comes back to the students who are all still sitting in the room and says, okay, everybody form a line. I have names of everybody here. Well, get in alphabetical order, and I'll direct you to what line you'll be lining up in. As everybody after that did that. And this was for like A, B, and C. And they were doing this so they could rank their students on who needed the least amount of help and who needed the most amount of help. So, they could make a balance system. And, yeah. As the weakest guy in C was obviously the weakest guy in school by far. He was a loser. And okay, I'm just gonna ignore what I just saw. So Izuku was placed in class A, obviously. And when they went into their designated room, Aizawa says, well, do the same thing you all did before, but it'll be last man standing. As he smiles sadistically. And he says, well, go. As everyone in the circular arena starts fighting. And people keep in mind, guys, the recommendation students aren't here, so Todoroki and Momo aren't in here at all. So Izuku quickly makes around 30 of him, and he starts punching kids out quickly. Eventually, it was him, Bakugo, Ida, and who was a kid that was also, we'll say Kaminari, for no reason in particular at all. As all of them circle the ring, literally the circle, yeah, pretty self-explanatory there. As Izuku makes another 30 shadow clones and says, attack! He makes 6 attack each of them, but he keeps 6 around him for protection. As Kaminari got knocked out because he tried to do the 1,000,000 volt thing, but one of the all 6 of these Izukus tackled him out. And yeah, that was that. But they were all out now, so yeah. And we'll say, just for special effects, when you landed out, you were quickly teleported to a distant room, which was the camera room, with a recovery girl watching, as she had everything recording also. So Izuku quickly looks at the remaining people with Bakugo. I think that Bakugo and Ida. As Bakugo thinks to himself, I can't win this. Stupid nerd. As Ida says, take this. And he uses all the speed he can muster at that time and speeds toward Izuku with a very flashy kick. But Izuku sacrifices one of his clones to take it to the neck and absolutely suffer. We all know how a throat hit hurts. Well, think again, because now you got a throat kick at 80 miles an hour. Just saying, that would hurt a lot. And yeah, probably getting hit like a car. So that clone dies, basically. And Izuku punches Ida into the ground then and throws him out with a clone helping him. As he looks at Bakugo and says, well, let's make the competition bigger again. As he puts his fingers together and says, ultimate move! As he crowds the entire arena, making around 500 clones. And they all start punching Bakugo. As Bakugo is so surrounded by the clones, he falls out of the arena because that's how much space they were taking up. He couldn't explode their corpses fast enough. And Izuku is declared the winner. Because, I mean, even if we're not giving him plot armor, Izuku's quirk slaps in that arena. I mean, if you think about it, if you just overload them, he will eventually fly out. I really don't know who would beat that. And, yeah. So, Izuku continues on with his day after that, going home extremely exhausted after using his new ultimate move, which he just called, okay. I just thought of a great name. No, it's not really great. Very much a copyright. Missile Barrage, because I'm not gonna include the two other words in front of it. And, yeah. Like Missile Barrage from Dragon Ball. If you guys were just wondering. Because you right. And Izuku went home happy that day, as Inko gets a text on her phone and is shocked and quickly runs to Izuku and says, "Izuku, you got into UA High School, and in fact, you were the strongest in the class." As Izuku is extremely happy and says, "Oh, that's cool, Ma." As Izuku's dad also peeks through the doorway and says, "Great job, kiddo. You'll be a great hero for this family." As he smiles, and Izuku says, "Thanks, Dad," as he sighs and smiles to them as they leave him alone. And Izuku thinks to himself how just great that situation had been. And, yeah. So, Izuku, then, well, think about it, we have 4 weeks left until UA High School's first day. So, Izuku walks outside the next day and says, "Let's do this," as he'd heard on the news that there had been a recent villain escapee from Tartarus escaping. So he wanted to test how strong he was. Not a good idea in the slightest, as he started walking over to relatively to where Tartarus was located, which would take hours to walk to, hours upon hours. As he's walking, he sees the villain that he was looking for fly past him, and Izuku immediately starts running as he sees All Might bolt past him and slam the villain to the ground. As All Might says, "Take this, you filthy villain," and he punches the villain. And as he's about to punch the villain says, "Shrink," as the villain quickly bounces out of the way and turns around and says, "Take this, you fake," as he presses a trigger on his gun and an electromagnetic pulse shoots its way towards All Might as All Might gets hit, who is trying to dodge. As All Might says, "You're rough," as he then collapses, falling back into his Small Might form. As the man says, "He was right. It is an anti-quirk gun. So wait, you're All Might. Think of all the ransom money I could get. That would be billions upon billions of dollars," as he starts scheming to himself out loud. And Izuku says, "All Might, that was him?" as he sheds a tear as the villain goes to pull out a gun towards All Might's head and gets his phone out. As Izuku says, "Clones," as 600 clones immediately charge at the enemy, as the man quickly starts shooting all the Izukus. But then he gets out his assault rifle, dropping his phone onto All Might, and starts laying it out with a very long magazine. Like, it even wraps around the gun as he continues shooting all the Izukus for one bullet each. But after 186 shots, the Izukus are still charging. As he sees that he's out and says, "I'm so happy. This is my quirk." Okay, I have a good name. As Seizo Mitarashi. Quirk, infinite storage. He has a black hole type of storage, which it really just suspends stuff forever, basically in an infinite space. And it was basically an infinite backpack for him. As he quickly grabbed out a massive machine gun and starts spraying down all the Izukus as hard as he can. As Izuku gets a little worried and spawns 200 more, who went from the sides too, as the man says, what a bother, as he grabs another minigun and shoots from left to middle and right to middle, and continues shooting that way. He did lose a couple bullets from when it was in the middle of the left side and the middle army. I think we're at 45 minutes. So, as Izuku continues trying to hit the man, he got one clone behind the man who hit him in the back of the head with a knee, as the man falls on his face and says, "Dang it!" As 10 clones had jumped towards his direction, as he sends a grenade right on himself. But he kicks it up in the air and shoots it, as it makes a massive explosion, but he covers himself with the machine gun. And the machine gun, luckily enough, took all the shrapnel, which was still really close to him. But he did take one to the leg. As he gets up and says, "That was too close," as it had wiped out 100 Izuku clones, as they're still charging at him. And he continues shooting them, as Izuku says, "Why has no one joined yet?" As he's about to pass out from all the clones he had summoned. As he says, "This'll win me the match," as he starts weaving hand signs for his ultimate move and says, "Missile barrage," as he had modified it to where it would spawn clones in the sky, and 1,000 clones suddenly appeared and charged at him from the sky, as the villain said, "Oh crap," as he suddenly tackled to the ground and almost suffocating, as he continued shooting minigun shots right above him. But more Izukus piled onto him. And, as you would know, he eventually ran out of ammo in his 2 miniguns. As only 10 Izukus from all of the army, even the extra 800, were still there. And they quickly knocked the man unconscious after a brutal beating. As he looks at the gun that housed All Might's quirk, as it said OFA, as Izuku said, "Odd. That's a good name. OFA. I wonder what it means. All Might's quirk." Whatever. As it said release, and he shot the gun, as it released the quirk, and it shot out and hit All Might. As All Might returned back to Big All Might, except he had recovered a lot from what Izuku did. Getting one for all once again restored it a lot, because he was using the embers. But considering the gun still saw the quirk one for all in it, because it had all the essence of it, just the dying embers of it, he gave it half the power, because the gun, it was a big gun, guys, okay, like a machine gun size, and it replenished the power of it, we'll say. And All Might got back up and said, "What the? There's as he checks his chest and sees it had healed a lot. And he even got some of his digestive system back. And he was quite happy about it because he could barely eat now. So he was happy about that. And he looks to the kid who had passed out. And All Might says, "Thank you, kid, so much," as he recognized him from the beach. And he laid a card down, which had a lot of money for it, and a location to see if they want to train sometime. And he quickly went to tell Night Eye and Mirio, who were on patrol at that time. And Night Eye was shocked, because now All Might and Mirio could be technical users of One For All, except All Might's One For All would be significantly weaker. But being One For All still, it would gather strength as it matured. So it was kind of like a restart, which was good. And yeah, so Izuku went home that day extremely happy, and having 29 days left till 29 days left till UA, his first day, sighs to himself and says, "What to do now?" Well, actually, as he looks at the time and says, "Time to go to bed, I guess," as he falls asleep. And, this was kind of like his month, almost. He went on a lot of journeys. In fact, we'll address his next journey right now. As he got up that day, he turned on the news to see local prison riot broke out of prison. The riot itself got out of prison and was now ravaging through his city. As Izuku said, "This month is going to be awfully long," as he quickly jumped outside after taking a shower and everything, and saying goodbye to his mom and dad, Hisashi and Inko, and quickly ran there. Using a new technique he learned to transform his clone's matter into a vehicle, as he drove with his now Izukified license and motorcycle, as he eventually, a couple minutes later, arrived at the city to see the riot, and he makes a couple clones to help him. Actually, by a couple, I mean 100, as he confronts the riot, as their ringleader, Muscular, says, "I will not be detained again," as he charges himself up, and everyone else unleashes their quirk, and they start attacking. And Izuku his clones are getting pummeled by Muscular, as he has to constantly unleash more. As Izuku's clones are eventually dissipated after summoning 400 extra, Izuku gets punched all the way into a building, as Aizawa sees a man in front of him as he opens his eyes. Why did I say Aizawa? Izuku sees a man in front of him, and it was President Mike and Aizawa, as Aizawa says, "We can't get any normal lunch breaks anymore, or naps for that matter." As President Mike said, "You said it, buddy," as they start attacking the riot. But Muscular powers through while Aizawa had blinked. He punches Aizawa through the building Izuku was hit into. As Izuku gets up and says, "I can still fight," as he says, "Army Jutsu." And he was calling it jutsu now just to be fancy. As he placed his hand on the ground and he let out a huge scream, 2,000 clones appeared, and Izuku immediately fell unconscious, and his final breath from before losing consciousness was, attack, as he fell onto the ground, unconscious. And Izuku, as he fell over, I better be recording. I swear to. Okay. Thank everything that I'm recording. And good. Okay. So, as Izuku looks at the villains after summoning his army, well, no, he's unconscious, as all the entire army starts attacking the small riot of 150 escaped convicts, especially Muscular. As Aizawa had been hit through the building, he was still recovering because of, you'd imagine, that hurt. Dang, we're about to hit an hour, peoples. That's kind of like it's kind of my goal. And, yeah. So, as Deku looks over towards, Aizawa, as Aizawa is trying to get up, and Izuku. Why do I keep forgetting the fact that Izuku is unconscious? As the clones begin fighting the prison riot. And Muscular could quickly dissipate them, but President Mike could only do so much. As the clones quickly started attacking the riot. And he'd actually eliminated 100 of them by now. But the stronger ones still remained. And eventually, the numbers were cut down to 1,000. But theirs was 25, 10, 500, and eventually 1, with 10 Izuku clones and the original now have woken up, and Aizawa and President Mike next to him, as the fight had gone through hours. And President Mike says, "This is a rough fight, kid. Wonder why you would take something like this on." And Aizawa says, "He's clearly crazy." As Izuku said, "Yeah, I guess I am." As Muscular, who is also panting, tells himself that he won't lose here, and covers his entire body in muscle fibers, and jumps in front of them. And Izuku, not having seen this, was hit in the stomach. As Izuku spats out a massive amount of blood, he's sent through 4 buildings and eventually crashes through one. As Izuku looks over towards the man, and you can barely see him, Izuku said, "I'm weak, I guess," as he makes his hand as fast as he can. Says, "Shadow clone," as he touches his hand onto the ground. His 300 go over, and he says, "Attack," as he's struggling to get up now. And they quickly run towards Muscular, as Muscular gets annoyed being done with this kid, basically. We're so close to an hour, peeps. It's like a countdown. And, yeah. So, Izuku gets kicked in the side. Haven't gone back to where Muscular was. And saw President Mike unconscious next to a building. But Endeavor had arrived, as he sends a massive fire shot at Muscular. And Muscular said, "I'm so happy I went to the boss man before this," as he takes in all of the fire with his new quirk called Fire Absorb. He absorbs fire and converts it into energy. And Izuku says, "No way," as that was a flash fire fist, by the way, as he absorbed it all. And Muscular was completely replenished. And All Might and Mirio then arrived. And Izuku says, "They're here," as All Might and Mirio says, "We are here," as they quickly launch towards Muscular. And Muscular gets pummeled by All Might and Mirio together. Mirio had learned around 15% by now. And yeah. We are at an hour officially. As after a long fructuous fight, Endeavor looks to All Might as All Might kicks Muscular through a building, and both Mirio and All Might get in front of Muscular as Mirio kicks him with full power of One for All, breaking his toes into right into All Might's Delaware Smash. And yeah, as Muscular gets hit as hard as they could through the ground, basically just smacking him onto the concrete. And yeah, he loses that. And yeah, that, people, is where we'll be leaving off on What If Deku Had a Shadow Clone Quirk, Part 1. And this is Keto, signing off. Goodbye. Come on, video. Okay, good. Yeah, so, yeah, this is Keto signing off once again. Goodbye. No.